Well, I'm very excited to be speaking with my good friend John Buchanan here. He has a lot of really unique experience when it comes to athletes and also regular people like you and I. Everyone is generally familiar with the idea of believing yourself, but the ability to take action is everything. And in the midst of player empowerment, sports, the rise of the gig economy, people needing to take their own livelihood into their own hands, left and right, Great Resignation, this topic is more relevant now than ever. So you have a unique perspective because you've worked for the NFL. You currently work at LegalZoom, partnering with the NBA. So you've got a lot of magic rumbling in that brain of yours. What can the person sitting on their couch hearing about the future learn from today's athletes?
It's a fun question to start with. Thanks, Elaine. Man, that's something you can riff on for like hours. I think to just really bubble it down, I would say there's 4 things that I've learned having a chance to work with a lot of amazing athletes as well as leaders. And the 4 things are: number 1, passion. These players show up each and every day believing in the sport that they're playing. They have a passion for it. They're willing to give it their all each and every day, whether it's on or off the court. And what's really fun for me as a dad who's got 2 kids that are athletes, I get to see that passion come through, not just from them, but in other students or other players that I get to be around when I'm on the field. So number 1 for me is they bring a level of passion to the craft, a level of passion to the commitment that they're willing to do for their sport, for their teammates. It's like unparalleled. Number 2, there's a level of grit and determination that they have that is just, it's incredible to watch. The ability for them to be able to work the extra hours, put in the extra time in order to make sure that they are protected, they're building on their craft each and every day. Most people don't realize how much work goes into an athlete and what they do each and every day. We see them on the court, they glitz and glamour and all of that. But the hours and the blood, sweat, and tears that occurs prior to that is really where the excellence of their work comes to life. There's a great quote out there called that says, embrace the misery of greatness. And I think that athletes who are great at what they do, that personifies who they are. They understand how hard it is. They understand it takes grit, it takes determination, and they're willing to embrace that form of misery to achieve that greatness. Number 3, they're all learners. They want to get better each and every day at their craft. They have a passion for it, they have grit for it, and then they want to be learners. The best in the business consistently ask, what can I do better? They're always asking, who can I work with to be a better teammate, to be a better leader, to be a better quarterback, a better point guard? They're always looking for ways to learn, to improve, to get better. And I think that's one of the most fundamentally important things in life is be that learner. Be somebody who's willing in your own craft, whether you're a creator or you're a marketer, find ways to continue to learn, find ways to continue to get better each and every day at your craft, and believe that you're never done. There is no peak. And the great ones truly and fundamentally believe that. I think the last thing I'd say is, and I think this is more important now than ever before, we just had a question around the NIL and what's going to happen in the college athletic space with brands and name and image and likeness. 4 for me is all of these athletes today understand that their responsibility of playing the sport is bigger than that now. That they have a responsibility through their platform, through their social media outlets, through the ways that children and young adults watch and admire them. They have a responsibility to give back. They have a responsibility to do something with that platform that's for the greater good of just themselves or the sport. And to me, that's why the power of sports and being here this week in Los Angeles in the Super Bowl, it's such an emotionally powerful place to be because you get to see and work with people that are not only great at their craft, but are great at making the world around them that much better. I think it's a very powerful thing, and bringing that back to like LegalZoom, what we do as it relates to being able to provide dreams to come true for individuals who want to become small business owners. You can be the same thing. You may be a small business in a small community. Use that small business to be a platform for good and change in the community for the people around you. I think that's what people can learn from watching these athletes today. It's about passion, grit, constantly being a learner, and realize that your voice and your responsibility is bigger than yourself. And when you recognize that and embrace it, you Hey, that was pretty good.
That was great. That was great.
You guys are gonna have to pass the microphone back and forth though, because there are some people watching you streaming. We're gonna miss your voice.
Well, so that leads into our next question, which is thinking about athletes and leagues as a whole. What have you learned about the power of sports in the marketplace to help move a message and their ability to help brands and causes?
Well, first, I think number one, it's the scale of sports today. When you just think about sports on a global scale, whether it's football in most of the world, cricket in many parts of the world, American football here in the US, the power of sports today from a scale standpoint, and what that scale provides you as a platform, is unparalleled. You're able to connect with so many people because of the power of those platforms around the world. And going back to my earlier point about that idea of just the power of voice and the power of individuals or athletes having a responsibility for greater good. When you work in the sports business, particularly around leagues, you get to work with great players who want to participate in that conversation that you're trying to drive. A great example of that for us is back in October, we announced Fast Break for Small Business, which was a multi-year NBA deal where we're giving $6 million in grants and services to underserved and underrepresented communities in order to help their dreams come true by being able to start and run their own businesses. And it's been amazing working with the NBA and the WNBA and the G League because of the scale that they provide us from a global perspective, but then access to incredible athletes that we get to work with to drive that message through their own authentic voices. And so for us, whether it's Chris Middleton or it's Neka from the Los Angeles Sparks or CJ McCollum, Chris Middleton, Jaylen Brown, all of these players have raised their hands saying, hey, we want to participate in that conversation with you because we know how important it is to be able to help give people a chance to see their dreams come true by becoming that entrepreneur, by helping to build their community. And they get to tell their version of that story and why it's so important to them. So you get to do that in the sports space, and I don't think there's another category that represents that same kind of connection when you're able to do it at scale.
We're friends, it's okay, it's not weird. Well, so that was very deeply personal, wonderful. What about when it comes to an entire category? How can we use marketing to develop category versus drafting?
Yeah, you're asking that question because LegalZoom kind of created its own category. And so obviously we have in our mind, we have a big responsibility around that. And that is to help continue to drive that category, to help participate in the conversation around that category. And so the way I think about it is sort of three things. Number one, when you are a brand defining a category, you have to realize that what you are doing is bigger than your brand, bigger than your product. You fundamentally believe that the category that you're trying to build helps people. It solves problems for people. It makes people's lives better or easier. Then you have a responsibility as one of the first movers of a brand in that space to make sure you are educating and teaching people that this is a category that can solve those problems. This is a category that can allow your life to be better. And so you almost have to elevate your messaging to be about something bigger than just the brand or the product by educating people on just how important this particular category that you're trying to drive. And then take that down to, from a brand perspective, this is how we're going to help you solve that problem. This is the mission we have. These are the values that we have. And then take it down to the product level and say, okay, with this category that we want to define, with a brand that represents these things, here's how our particular product is going to help you solve that problem. Here's how this product is going to help make your life better. And I think as a brand who has first mover advantage or is defining that category, don't look at it as just the product you're trying to market or a brand you're trying to build. Look at it as a responsibility to try and educate the world that there is something out there that is better than the current problems and that you can actually solve those problems through this new category.
Interesting that using the term education, because you worked for a lot of fun, useful brands, Adobe, EA, the NFL, and now you're a LegalZoom. Like legal stuff is complicated and difficult to understand. Yes, it can be very overwhelming. Yeah. So, obviously those other brands, people expected to be like entertained and it was fun and it wasn't so heavy. But now you have to talk to people about legal stuff and educate them without it feeling educational. So how do you do that?
Wow. No, I think at the end of the day, it comes down to keeping it simple. If you create a message through your advertising and through your messaging, where you keep the message simple. This is the problem we're trying to solve for you, and this is how we're going to solve it for you. And you do it in a way that's authentic, and it's casual, and it's connecting from a human perspective in the way that you're trying to deliver that message. What happens is two things occur. Number one, people start to gain confidence that they can do this. They realize, like, wait a minute, is it really that easy to start my own business? Is it really that easy to be able to be successful as an entrepreneur? And look, LegalZoom certainly is representing through their advertising and messaging that it is possible. That I actually have the ability to do this. I have the confidence to do this. So you have a responsibility by keeping that message simple and clear. That while a category like ours, it can be complicated, it can be overwhelming, it can be scary in some ways. If you're able to keep your message simple, you're able to really clearly articulate this is the problem we're solving, here's how we're going to solve it for you. Provide people that confidence to take that leap. And then through the advertising, as well as other content that you create, you can help educate them on that confidence exists now. I'm now educated on what I need to go do, or I don't want to take that leap. And then from an advertising perspective, hopefully what you do through that messaging of keeping it simple is that the creative you're actually putting in market, it's enjoyable, it's fun, and it's breakthrough to give people that confidence that they can make that leap and do it. And it doesn't hurt to work with great people like you to go and make it happen.
Well, so obviously I think the group is sensing there's a lot of passion behind what you're saying. Do you have a personal connection to all this subject matter?
Yeah, I think I've never had more fun in my life professionally. And I say that at the bottom of my heart. And to your point, I've worked with incredible brands, like from the NFL to Yahoo to Adobe to EA. But for this one, I think my connection to this brand and what we're trying to do each and every day, it reaches on such a personal level, and there's such passion for me. And it really stems from two things. One, I grew up in the military, so I lived all over the place. And so as I traveled around the US or in Asia and other places, you just quickly see the disparity and the inequities that exist in the world today, and there's just something fundamentally wrong with that. I mean, I fundamentally believe as a human being, if we can actually elevate all ties, if we can elevate the world around us to be a better place, to allow opportunities and equality to exist, that everyone wins. The world around us becomes a better place. And unfortunately, right now, there's a lot of systemic issues that don't make that happen. And then part of my life, I was raised by a stepdad who happened to be a lawyer and a small business owner, and he owned his own law firm. And so I got to watch how hard it was to actually run a small business, but then also watch how there are serious systemic environmental challenges around the legal and financial systems today. And we got to figure out how to fix that. And I believe we are a brand that's trying to do that. I believe we are a brand that's going to, through our mission of democratizing law and creating equitable access to all, have a chance to actually make that happen. And if we do that, then the world around us becomes a better place. And we get to work with great sports brands like the NBA, WNBA, G League to be able to do those things to get that message out.
It's clearly meant to be for you to arrive at it. So we started this conversation on the topic of really being committed to yourself and personal agency. What words or advice do you have for people who are thinking about or should be thinking about starting a business?
Go for it. I think go for it. I mean, it goes back to the conversation we started with, right? If you have a passion for something, if you believe in something, whether it's a product you're thinking about, whether it's a business plan that you believe in, whether it's a hobby where you're as a side hustle creating a craft that turns into something excellent, go for it. Now there's no better time in the world to be able to take that leap to go do something. You've got tools available to you. There are now brands and resources out there to be able to help you take that leap. And I think if you can take that leap in a way where you feel educated, you feel confident, you've got a passion for what you do, go for it. And there's just so many opportunities for people because of the world that we are in, being globally connected, being digitally connected, that you can create, whether it's a full-time job as an entrepreneur, a side hustle, someone who wants to give back through their own experiences of being a consultant. There's just no better time in the world today to be able to go do those things. In part because I think the world needs it. And if you believe in what you want to do, and you have a passion for it, there's no better way to live your life than doing that thing you care so much about.
I'm gonna start my own business now.
Sorry, guys.
Okay, I'm starting my own business in 10 minutes.
In 10 months.
Okay, fine. I'll give you a countdown. But you, I mean, you have worked for so many interesting brands. What lessons have you learned from them that you're carrying through into this role?
I'm gonna flip that on you a little bit, I think, actually. We talked about the brand, so you know, amazing places to work with the NFL and Adobe and the EA and other places. Honestly, those brands are amazing, but what made those places great and how much I learned from those places weren't the brands, the people that were a part of those brands. I take NFL as an example. I think Tim Ellis was one of the keynotes here. I got to learn from him. I got to learn from being out with guys like Ian Trombetta and Peter O'Reilly and so many people at the NFL. That there is a platform there that is so powerful. When you connect it with great creative to build that brand voice and to build that brand message, incredible things can happen. To work with great people at Adobe and EA, where you have such digitally connected products, so each and every day you can see how your customers are engaging with your product, how to make it better each and every day, and then take those insights to be able to then optimize your messages so people learn about how great that entertainment experience can be if you're in video gaming, or how great that experience can be with Creative Cloud inside Adobe by building beautiful assets. It was the people in those companies that gave me that learning and insight. And all the way back to being in Hot Wheels at Mattel years and years ago, and working for guys like Doug Wadley or Jeff Walker, who taught me the power of detail and just don't let little things become big things, and ensure that you have attention to details of your work, your craft, to be able to work through those things, to be able to create really good things. And so I feel blessed that I got to work with these great brands, but more importantly, I got to work with just incredible people who made those brands not only great, but also gave me a chance to be able to take all of those learnings and insights, hopefully apply it to here and what we're trying to do. Don't let little things become big things, especially if you're making Hot Wheels. Yes.
And finally, we know we can't succeed in this world alone. Any advice on the importance of building relationships or partnerships?
You know, my stepdad, the guy who's the law firm and has a small business, he had this saying, life is not a dress rehearsal. You only live it once. So make each and every day count, make each and every relationship count. And I think there's just something so fundamentally true about realizing that in this world that we live in, where it's global and it's digital, and you actually can work in companies that you never physically meet someone. At the end of the day, what makes life great are the people that you get to spend time with each and every day. Whether it's personally with friends and family, professionally with people like you and what we get to do. Embrace that, appreciate that. And my hope is that if you do that, and you treat people the way you want to be treated, and you treat people in a way that they will then realize what you're trying to do as a relationship with them, they'll pay it forward, and you'll pay it forward, and the world becomes a better place. And so I try to do that. I elaborate is such an emotional thing for me, but I just realize that life is about relationships and the people around you, and just appreciate that, respect that, and good things will happen in your life. As a side note, Elaine and I have known each other for years. We've never worked together. And here we are, serendipitously working on a creative platform together and sitting here having this great conversation about helping the Super Bowl. It's because of relationships that you and I built years ago that happens. And I just hope people really remember that. Don't lose how important that is in life. All right.
Do we have any questions?
Your story really resonated with me. I'm reminded me about graduating UCLA law, so. Thesis on the IL.
Yes.
It's a big opportunity for a company like yours. You talk about education, someone needs to really step in. So school by school, athletes are doing their thing. There's, the federal, sort of ball is up in Mayhem, and there's a big case next year with House that's going to be in a whole new site, and March Madness is around the corner. What's going to happen with that? So I'd love to hear I'd love to hear how you're going to take a stance, because I think it's something that is a priority, and someone that uses a legal perspective as well as a mission across the country to really set the standard. Someone educational benefits versus pay to play, super important to really get it straight and empower young athletes.
Yeah. It is such a great question. Keisha nailed it, by the way, in the previous conversation. The NIL right now is Wild Wild West. And that's a problem. It's a problem because so many of these student athletes who have a chance to be able to actually build a brand, be able to develop their brand, develop a business around their brand, to be able to participate in the opportunity of being able to financially take care of themselves and their family through their name and image and likeness. It's such a wild west, however, on how to go do that. And I fundamentally believe one of the single most important things that can happen right now in the NIL space is educating. Educating the student athlete on what it means to be able to protect your name, image, and likeness. I can tell you, I love UCLA, but I'm a USC Trojan.
I know, I saw that.
I work with I know the football program and I know players there. And it's fascinating.
To them too, so I'm
Yeah.
already in with UCLA, so maybe you can help me.
But here's the thing. It is such a wild west that so many of these student athletes are jumping into it believing that, hey, this is awesome. I get to make money now on something that I'm passionate about, I care about, but it's on me, it's my brand and image. But nobody's educating them on how to do that. No one's educating them on the financial responsibilities of that. And I kid you not, what's happening is some of these kids are getting deals done, making money, and then they get a check from the IRS, they taxable income, and they're like, wait, what is this? I'm 18 years old, I got this thing called the IRS. What is that? And I worry that there are so many people wanting to connect a brand to a player, wanting boosters to support a university to get a player to come so they get money from it, that nobody's actually solving the problem right now, and that's educating the student athlete on how they can do this in a way that successfully allows them to build their brand, but protects them from the downside that can occur if you don't take care of yourself. And to your point, I believe we as a brand have a responsibility to do that. And I'm working on a plan to figure out how to go do that.